Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes Report for the past 24 hours. And there is not a lot of actual frontline changes per se, but there is a lot of frontline clarification that I'm going to be doing. And so you guys have probably heard me talk a lot about the weird frontline. The frontline don't make sense. No, my primary sources are not giving me the mapping or the information that allows me to correlate it better to the defense ministry's report. And out of I feel like it's a bit out of a no choice situation that I've decided to take the mapping from a pro-Russian source, which is also known as the Couch General Staff. I'm not sure it's also known as SOFA, but so they have a website called divgen.ru. They are like the deep state UA, or one of the many pro-Russian deep state UAs out there. But the problem with their information is that there's no source. So that is the main reason why they continue to be sitting in my secondary source. I'm not using them for primary source, and I've always just skip over their updates because if there's no source, I cannot just believe. And probably that is also how many of these pro-Russian or other channels or Twitter accounts misreporting certain advances. Like they reported some pro-Russian Russian advances, and then it turned out to be wrong. It might be coming from this channel. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to use this channel on a regular basis. This is just for clarification because I think the front line has become too stupid to the point. So, but all of these updates coming from this mapping is just Russian claims. It's not Russian captures. So I just want to put all this up front so that we are on the same page. So we have a lot of frontline changes as a result. So we're going to go through the entire frontline basically almost. So there is frontline changes over at Bukovka. So according to this Russian mapping, this couch general stuff, Russian forces have lost Bukovka. However, they did claim that they have retaken Veseloye. This is the claim, this is not a capture. So Ukrainian forces actually have control of Bukovka, which is something that I've alluded to that's likely to be the case. So this, of course, this position about the Veseloye is something that is already, I did mention that pro-Russian sources are claiming that the Ukrainian capture of Veseloye is invalidated almost immediately. On DPA's position, I still feel that Veseloye is captured. But of course, a Russian counterattack after that is possible also. So, but it's just a claim. So until someone because the Ukrainian position is geolocated, that's why it have more weight than just claims. So unless there's objective geolocation of footages, showing that Russian forces inside Veseloye from now on, then this going to continue to be a double a parallel universe for now. So this is the two frontline change around here. The next frontline change, we jump all the way to Taikei at the Kharkiv front. So there is some other minor differences between this DivGen mapping just call it DivGen for now. So DivGen mapping. But I'm not going to clarify them all throughout the entire curse front because I think, because they have no source. That's the main problem. So based on their mapping as well, they claim that the Russian forces seems to have taken Taikei. So this is a claim. I'm not going to put this as a very strong claim per se. So because anything that come out from this mapping is not a strong claim because there's no source, and I don't like it when there's no source. So that's all from Taikei. So we shall continue to monitor. Maybe there will be geolocation because Taikei is a significant frontline position. We jump all the way to the Kupiansk front at the Sinkivka region. So in the Sinkivka region and towards Petropavlivka, this tentacle here is a part of Petropavlivka. In their mapping, so these are all the more major ones, and I think it's a bit more pressing ones. Russian forces have made some advance south of Sinkivka. They have also secured this front line north of Petropavlivka, which makes sense, which is also why I mapped this in, because it makes sense that they have taken this entire Nogali region and down this tree line. So If I zoom out a bit, you probably can see better the strategic situation where the Russian forces going down Sinkivka and then taking this position north of Petropavlovka. So this could then explain why we constantly have reports about fighting at Kucherivka direction. So this is why I map it in, because it helps to corroborate some of this reporting that we are receiving. If not, the map is going to keep looking very silly as compared to the reporting that's coming from the Russian and Ukrainian defense ministries. So that's the reason why I'm making all these map updates. So over in the in the eastern part of the Kupiansk front, major updates based on the mapping from DivGen, right? Yeah, DivGen. So the Russian Defense Ministry did mention the capture since 1st of July, and so we have based on their mapping a massive update in terms of the front line, and this update I think still makes sense to me, because after the Kaislivka, Kotelivka situation and all this fighting reported at the Novosibirsk region, I think this makes perfect sense that the Russians are having this more advanced defensive position. This entire line is a defensive position. It goes round the geology perfectly fine. So this is the major correction of the mapping on the Russian mapping. The Ukrainian mapping doesn't change at all. This only Russian mapping is being affected. So we will continue to monitor the situation that's developing. Hopefully there is geolocation and updates that we can actually reflect upon after this. In the Pichane front, we also have some major updates. So based on this Russian mapping, DivGen, their position is a bit more upfront than DPA's mapping that we have. There's slightly more advanced position towards Kulishkivka, Kulisnivkivka, and they also have a small advanced position south to around Kuliakivka. So, and they also have closed up this entire salient, which I did mention don't make a lot of sense, which is south of Pischani and Berestove. So according to their mapping, the Russian forces have taken everything south of Pischani, fully securing Pischani, as well as everything south of Berestove, fully securing Berestove. So this is I would say the south of Pischani Berestove one makes sense because logistically it feels really awkward for the Ukrainians to hold such a position. But towards the Oskil River around here, that is a bit more arguable. But we shall continue to monitor the situation. If it's true, we will get corroborations. If it's not true, it will be invalidated. So that's why I say this is also going to be a one-off update, so that our mapping makes a lot more sense when we talk about the situations in Ukraine. So moving further south, so the Vishneve situation, as I mentioned, is one of those mystery, right? Where how the hell the Russians suddenly announced the capture of Vishneve. So this also corroborates the announcement of the capture of Masuzarivka, the announcement of the capture of Andriivka in July as well. So this mapping basically takes Russian Defense Ministry's words rather literally. So this is basically, that was probably what they based it on in terms of their mapping. And of course, their mapping, if you look at it, it looks really specific, like where the front line are. So if you ever go to the website divgen.ru, divgen.ru, you will see that their mapping is very specific. It reminds me of Surya maps mapping. So, and and when mapping becomes so specific, I have my doubts. Like, how the hell do you know that this specific street, that tree, is a position? That so I have my doubts. I doubt everything. Don't trust anything. So, but anyway, this mapping change will allow us to appreciate the frontline changes and the strategic situation better, rather than I leave it unmapped. Because when I leave it unmapped, then I think it's a bit hard when you look at the DPS mapping, especially the link is in the map. DPS mapping is in the description below. You can actually check it out yourself. It's on Google My Maps. But drawing it in will allow you to kind of see the strategic situation easier, because we have all these announcements, and when Russian Defense Ministry announce something, doesn't mean it's true, but it's significant. You see, so it's better to be somewhat reflected, so that we can have a better appreciation. Now you can see that this is becoming a dinosaur that is going to bite on, right? So correct. So it looks like a dinosaur. It looks like a jaw. So, and which clearly shows a possible pincer, which is why, yeah, this Vishneva is strategically very, very significant in terms of the frontline change. So move further south, there's some small changes in the west of Kamenzinivka. So small thing south of Yehorivka. And moving further south, I don't know why my voice is breaking here. In the Makiivka region, based on their mapping, the Russian forces, of course, because Makiivka is fully captured, but Makiivka have some part of the settlements, like this few streets here, that's not accounted for in the mappings. So, and it was ignored by Deputy UA, which I do have my doubts. Why is it ignored? Because it might be part of Makiivka. So based on this Russian mapping, the entire Russian claim is all of the western part of Makiivka, which actually do makes some sense. That the Russians have all these positions all the way up to the valley around here. So this is Makiivka update. Again, it's a claim. It doesn't affect the Ukrainian mapping. Let me clear my throat. Hello. So better. Yeah, I have a good cough. So so that's update from the Makiivka. There's some updates around Dibrova as well. Based on this Russian mapping, the Dibrova position looks a bit more different. Which more looks I'm not sure if it's natural. Because it's all forest ultimately, but the Russian mapping, the Russian positions looks a bit more advanced and more protection for Dibrova, and that in itself could make some sense, because Dibrova looks really vulnerable if you believe the Ukrainian mapping. So, and then if it's that vulnerable, why the Ukrainians didn't launch a major assault to capture it? Is a question. So this mapping do have its own sensibility. They have a very different. They have some difference in terms of the detailed mapping in the Serbiansky forestry. I don't think it's important enough for me to copy it. So then we have the Sivers front. As you can see, this is a bit more closer to what the defense ministry, Russian defense ministry and Ukrainian defense ministry's report, because this reflects a bit of more things, like for example fighting towards Svenivka and towards Sivers, because this mapping reflects the Russian capture of Vimka, so which is claimed by the Russian defense ministry, and this also marks some differences, like north of Vasily, and a more bigger capture around Perezne. But I'm not sure if this fully captures Perezne. No, it's not. It doesn't fully capture Perezne, but it is what it is. And in the latest report, we have the reports of the capture of Bakalokayamsky, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and so they promptly map it in this way, and that's a problem. Like for me, this way of mapping is a problem, because they literally just believe everything that the Russian Defense Ministry says. So, which is why, again, I have to say, I cannot put them as a primary source. But whatever it is, the Russians seemingly captured all these places. So based on this mapping, so at least we put it in the Russian mapping. At least we have some kind of a gauge what the hell is happening. But it's not acknowledged by the Ukrainians at all, tentatively. So that's all from the Sivers front. We have all these major advances that is now reflected on the map, and then we can appreciate the strategic situation better in Siversk. And furthermore, we go to Hoihorivka. So this is one of those also weird ones. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture on the 25th of September. We do not have mapping information to really reflect that. So similarly, DivGen have mapped it in this way, where the Russian forces seemingly have fully captured Hoihorivka. And clearly the way they map it is very conservative to the point of is just nice capture Kharkiv. So it's definitely just a reflection of the statement coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. Yeah, so I made my point, so I'm not going to repeat again. So over in the South Bakhmut, so they map it pretty much to what I imagine the front line should be, which is very close to the canal. So this is how they have mapped the entire South Bakhmut situation with the full capture of Andriivka, the full capture of Klishchiivka. So so this is because the problem is that the South Bakhmut is a very quiet front right now. So there is very little updates coming from this area because the battles here is very not intense. At least not intense enough for any of these open source intelligence or even deep state UA to acknowledge anything. So no footages are coming out of here. Maybe the commanders in this region is very disciplined. They have very strict operational discipline on their troops. So no one is posting drone footages or whatnot to which would review the frontline situation. As a result, we have no updates coming from this area for a long time. And as fighting is continued to be reported towards Bilhora, and of course we have Stupovsky and towards Peteshne around there and Dilievka. I feel like this map update should be updated according to DivGen's mapping for now at least, until it get invalidated, because if not, then we keep reporting very weird positions that it doesn't reflect on the map. So that's why I updated this. And according to the DivGen, they also mapped this chunk of Zabalka, which is this district south of Torex, as under Russian control. So this is some more update. And then we move on into the Pokrov region. There's no updates around here. Our mapping is not that different. And then we go into the Hernik region. In the Hernik region, this Russian mapping do not agree that this entire line is a straight line. So they feel in terms of their mapping just off Krasnohorivka, the Ukrainians actually have this entire tree line around here. So let me draw again. They have the tree line around here as well as this industrial building around here. So the Ukrainian line actually looks like this. So which I think it makes more sense than the Ryba's very vague mapping, which is why I draw this in, so the Ukrainians do have this position. So this will recede the Russian claims in this area here. And then around the Alexandropil and Khostre situation, the lack of update coming out of this position lets me to also follow their mapping by DivGen. So this makes more sense that the Russians have captured Khostre, which is announced by the Russian Defense Ministry. So to capture Khostre, you need to have this tree line off of it. So it makes sense. And advance and taking the hill just south of Alexandropil also can make sense. So all these are just sensible updates, so that we can better appreciate the situation, because Ryba nowadays, for the past few months, have been really stingy about showing the maps. That's a problem for us to keep track of their reporting. So that's what it is. So that's all from this area. The rest of the Donetsk front is pretty much, I prefer to use our mapping. Pretty much very similar. The DivGen's mapping is a bit more advanced. They claim the Russians have taken all of this area here. I feel like I don't know how they get information to suggest that the Russians have all these positions. So I'm not going to map that in, because I feel that that's a bit like from nowhere. And otherwise, the rest of the front line, there is no more frontline changes, if I'm not wrong. Yep, so the last is Austria. So anyway, this is the frontline changes report. A lot of corrections, a lot of updates to reflect on the actual reality. Not actual reality, but the supposed reality of based on the reportings that we are seeing from both Ukrainian and the Russian defense ministries. So this Russian mapping will help us to visualize what the hell is happening slightly better, because Ukrainian mapping is severely lagging behind because they are trying to control and manage the information that is flowing out of the Ukraine war situation, because too much bad news. So they have no choice. They have to manage the information space. They only concede when there is no choice, like Voleda. Way too many video footages of Russians raising the flag inside Voleda. They just have no choice. They have to admit it. But when it comes to a situation like in Nelipivka, in the New York region, Thorax, they'll try to delay it as long as they can. Anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.